Imagine waking up in a cold barracks where the wine sneaks through the cracks in the wooden walls. Your body aches from yesterday's training. Every muscle feels like it has been stabbed by thousands of tiny needles. This is not just a dream. You are a Roman legionary, one of those who stand guard over the greatest empire in the world. And today, like every day, begins with sunrise. You are awoken by the sharp sound of the tuba, not the musical instrument you know, but a long bronze pipe whose piercing tone tears through the morning silence. Your whole body jolts at the sound. You jump off your simple wooden cot, where you slept in your underwear because the night heat could be so unbearable that even a blanket became a burden. Outside, you hear the centurion-esque commands, the voice of a harsh officer capable of freezing even the boldest recruit. First comes the morning roll call. All legionaries line up by squad, checking each soldier's presence. Then, breakfast, a bit of stale bread, a piece of salty cheese, and a handful of olives. Sometimes instead of cheese, they give you a little meat, usually pork or horse meat if you're lucky. Wine is also available, but it is diluted with water to avoid drunkenness before the day begins. After eating, hard work begins. It starts with physical exercises, running for endurance, carrying heavy sandbags, marching with full armor. You wear sandals with thick soles covered in metal spikes, designed to give you an advantage in battle. On you is a leather cuirass with iron plates on top and a round shield made of wood and covered in leather. Your sword, the gladius, is your loyal companion. Its weight has long become part of you. At midday, a short break. You can wash at a nearby spring or well, eat some biscuits and an apple if you were lucky enough to receive one from the locals. But rest is short-lived. Time for tactical training, strategy, and maneuvers in formation. Legionaries learn to act as one. Every step, every sword swing must be coordinated. One mistake can cost dozens their lives. By evening comes the time for building fortifications. Yes, legionaries are not only warriors but builders. Every night, they must erect a temporary fortress from earth, wood, and stone. You dig ditches, carry logs, hammer stakes into the ground. Your hands are covered in calluses, your legs ache, your back breaks. But you don't complain. This is your duty. If you fail to do your part, you get a whipping or lose your meal. After sunset, dinner, consisting of barley porridge, sometimes with onions or lentils. After that, guard duty. You might end up on night patrol, standing watch for hours, staring into the darkness, fearing raids by local tribes or wild animals. The night seems endless, especially when the wine creeps through the gaps in your clothes and the stars above remind you that you are only a small piece of a vast empire. And finally, after a long day, you fall onto your bed and almost immediately fall asleep. But dreams are not always pleasant. Often you see battles, fallen comrades, enemy cries, and the smell of blood. You know, tomorrow will be exactly the same day as today. No weekends, no vacations, only duty and honor. You are not just a soldier. You are part of a machine built for conquest and order. The Legion is not just an army. It is a way of life. You spend 10, 15, sometimes 20 years in it. Many join the Legion in youth, around 19 or 20 years old, dreaming of glory, land, and a pension. But reality is cruel. Most who come do not live to retire. Some die in battle, others from disease, and some simply disappear somewhere on the edges of the empire, forgotten even by their commanders. Discipline in the Legion is relentless. Punishment for breaking orders can be severe, from whipping with a belt to losing part of your food ration or even decimation when 1 out of 10 soldiers is executed for cowardice or rebellion. It is a terrible lesson for the rest. You remember the day when one of your comrades, a young man named Gaius, couldn't withstand the march and collapsed. His feet were covered in bloody blisters. The centurion didn't listen to excuses. Gaius was tied and hung from a pole all day under the scorching sun. He survived, but afterwards he changed. Silent, lost. A few months later, he died from the first arrow in battle. Battles are an inseparable part of a legionary's life. Sometimes they happen rarely if you serve in peaceful provinces such as Africa or Hispania. But if you are sent to the border with Dacia, Parthia, or the Rhine, then every day could be your last. Battle begins with the signal of trumpets. Legionaries form dense ranks, the testudo or tortoise. Shields overhead turn you into a living wall, nearly impossible to penetrate. Under this protective cover, you move forward, stabbing with swords, cutting down enemies. The smell of sweat, blood, and earth mixes into a suffocating aroma of war. After the battle comes cleaning the field. The wounded are bandaged, the dead gathered. If you ray lucky, you be sent to the camp medic. They aren't doctors in the modern sense, but they know how to remove arrows, stitch wounds, and perform amputations. Often treatment involves heavy bloodletting or applying leeches. Death from infection is common. Even a small scratch can lead to gangrene, and then without further words, they prepare your grave right on the battlefield. Life away from battle is also full of hardship. The camp is a miniature city. You must learn to repair roads, build bridges, barrages, service catapults, and ballistae. You dig sewers, clean latrines, carry firewood and water. You have no right to rest. Even if there are no drills today, you still need to check your weapons, sharpen your sword, mend your clothes. Clothes tear quickly, especially if you ray often on campaign. The cloak given once a year doesn't always survive the season. In winter, the cold freezes your body. In summer, the blazing sun burns your skin. Sometimes there is a chance to relax a little. After a long march or victory in battle, there may be a festival. Better food is served, sometimes even meat and fruit. You can play dice or take part in strength contests, but such moments are rare. Mostly monotony, heaviness, and the endless chain of duties. If you survive until the end of your service, which usually happens after 25 years, you are given a plot of land or a payment. But few return home. Many remain in the provinces, marry local women, and have children. You become part of a new culture, though in your heart you continue to consider yourself a Roman. Your children will already speak another dialect, but they, descendants of those who built and protected the greatest empire on earth. You remember the day you first put on armor and held the gladius in your hand. Back then, you were full of enthusiasm and dreamed of glory. But the years wore off your naivety. Now you understand, war is not only victories and triumphs that glorify emperors. It is endless marching along dusty roads, the heavy shield on your shoulders, pain in your back, cracked skin on your hands from constantly gripping the spear shaft, and fear. Deep, invisible fear that lives inside every legionary, but which no one talks about aloud. You've stopped counting how many times you've taken a life. Each sword strike, that's a life you take. Enemies, they are people too. They have families, children, mothers waiting for them at home. But you cannot allow yourself to think about it too often. If you start, you'll become slow, hesitant, and then the next arrow will pierce your own body. You've seen comrades die. Some screamed, some whispered the name of their beloved or mother. A boy, very young, had part of his face torn off by a stone from a catapult. He died within an hour, suffocating in his own blood. His eyes were wide open, as if he still couldn't believe it happened to him. After that, you begin to believe in gods. Not necessarily Jupiter or Mars, sometimes just a force that decides who lives and who dies. And every day, you pray that it chooses you. There are laws in the camp. Legionaries stick together because that's the only way to survive. You share food, repair weapons together, cover each other during drills. Sometimes real friendship arises between soldiers, almost like brothers. But death can break any bond in an instant. And you know, tomorrow one of you may disappear, and you won't even have time to say goodbye. Life outside of battle is also full of danger. Diseases strike the camp faster than enemies. Plague, dysentery, fever, these words inspire more fear than the sound of trumpets before a fight. Sanitary conditions in the camp leave much to be desired. What you consider a common cold can become a deadly illness in a few days. Medics do what they can, but most often the only thing left is to pray and endure. If you serve on the borders of the empire, for example, on the Danube or Rhine, winters become a trial. The cold is so strong that even your breath freezes on your beard. Cracks appear on your fingers and toes. Wounds heal slowly. Snow gets under your armor, soaks your clothes, and you feel the cold slowly creeping into your bones. And yet, you must be ready for battle at any moment. Sometimes enemies attack at night, when everyone is asleep. Then the entire camp awakens to screams and the sound of clashing metal. Sometimes command gives a short leave, only for a few days. You go to the nearest town or village, trying to forget yourself in wine or the company of local women. But even there, you feel like a stranger. Townspeople look at you with respect, but you know they don't understand what you've been through. They've never held a bloodied sword in their hands, never seen someone die whom you just killed, never tasted salted meat after weeks without proper food. You drink, laugh, flirt, but inside you remain a legionary, hardened, cautious, ready for battle even among peaceful walls. You often think, why am I here? But the answer is always the same. For Rome, you are its defender, its wall, its blade. Without people like you, the empire would have collapsed long ago under the pressure of enemies. You are part of a great machine, and even if your name is never written in books, even if no one remembers your face, you know you did your duty.